Hey kids, it's Old Man shouting at clouds, and now with others too. Chatting about the CFL is what they're going to do. Some have no contacts and others have no clues. Everyone will tell us all their quirky football views. Hear what Old Man and others know. It's the CFL Outsiders show.
Hey, GT. What are we going to do this week?
Same thing we do every week, old man. Take over the CFL.
Hey, kids. Welcome back to another episode of the CFL Outsiders. I remain, as always, your completely impartial, 100% unbiased, and frankly very pleased co-host, Old Man, shouting at clouds. Joining me this week, as usual, is MJ.
Hey everyone. Between the Blue Jays and the Ticats, I barely dragged myself out of bed today.
One of those days, yeah.
Yeah.
Just get someone to bring me a couple of tubs of ice cream. I'll stay right here.
Yes.
And also with us is GT.
Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm glad to be back. It was a good week for me. But before we get to that, I thought I would talk about this again. We did this earlier in the year. This is the Casey Printers jersey that we talked about we've been auctioning off since early in the season, with all proceeds going to CFL Fans Fight Cancer. And right now we've had two bids that have been escalating over the course of the season. And we may have to go to the replay center for this final decision. Because at this point in time, MJ versus MJ2, MJ2 bid of record, which is what I'm saying, what I meant to say, is the winner. However, somewhere I seem to remember MJ also throwing in another bid higher, but somehow the goalpost got in the way of the view or something, and we no longer have that on record in the timeline. So I'm not able to prove that from the on-field view, and no one can confirm it in the rest of the officiating crew that I have at our house. So I may have to ask MJ to go back through her timeline and see if she can find the latest bid that she had to see who then, between the two of them, takes home this lovely Casey Printers Tie-Cat jersey. And then all funds from that will go, as we talked about once again, to CFL Fights Cancer. So MJ, over to you, as they say. Scour the records, see if you can find any evidence of a larger bid than the one that I posted recently, or I can let you know privately, and then you can go from there. All right?
All right.
Okay. And it.
Sorry?
So I was going to say, if we get a dark horse who wants to come in and compete against the two of them, where do they get in touch with you? On Blue Sky, on the show email here? What do you want to do?
Any or all of the above. Blue Sky at GT Barnum at Blue Sky is perfect, and or just to hear on the show notes, anywhere that you like. I will say that just in case anyone is interested, because it's not, I think it was on Blue Sky, the bid, so we're not in that much. The current bid is on record is $70. However, I believe there was a $75 bid that you will have to investigate and tell me whether it happened. Or if someone would like to bid higher than that, we could start over again. What the heck?
Sure. There we go. And yeah, all those contacts are in the show notes, so just check there and you can get them. See if we can get some money for the CFL Fans Fight Cancer here.
I will post it on Instagram, and someone else can take me and my sister on. We'd be happy to have some competing bids. That's for a good cause, and we can surely are not the only two Casey Printers fans in the CFL fandom.
I was actually kind of surprised on the Ticats board that no one else stepped up. I had some inquiries, but no one had decided to put a bid in. Okay, so now that that's done, and we've talked about the Casey Printers jersey, just give me a second here, because
it's so beautiful,
get rid of this and go where we need to go, right?
There we go.
That's I feel much better now. I just, let's go with what we know, right? There you go. Start the show. It's nice to be able to put the red back on after 4 weeks. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
I
hey,
bet.
and it was well earned. We'll get to that, but what a change. Anyway, and yeah, I'll post it up on X and the CFL subreddit as well. See if we can get some more people involved there. But getting into the show here. First thing is probably, I guess, my fantasy update from last week. I was in the semifinals, and I thought I had a fairly good team, but it was largely based on Hamilton doing well and not so good. So
Oh no.
end of Saturday, I looked at the scoring where we were at, and what I saw at that point was I was down about 10 points to Rouge Daltz, but I had Stevie Scott as a running back in the Ottawa defense with all I had left, and he had a quarterback, which was obviously going to be Davis Alexander. So after the game yesterday, I thought, well, I'll see how bad I lost. And apparently I read the numbers wrong because I'm moving on to the final.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh,
Yes.
Well done. Well done.
93.9 for me, and Rouge Dalton, I guess Robert Dalton from over at Rouge Radio got 90.1. It was a 3-point victory, but barring any corrections, the announcement's been made. I'll be up against CFC Adam, who's Adam Stewart from the Canadian Football Countdown, and commissioner of the league. So, I'm not going to go sort of orange and say, well, if I win, it's obviously a fair one, and if I lose, it's rigged. No, I've already been bantering a little bit with Adam on the side here. Nice thing about this is if I win this, it's $350 to go to the charity of my choice. So one way or another, people are going to get helped out. Adam, if he wins, it's going to go to the CFL Fans Fight Cancer, which is a great cause, and I've got no problem with that. I'm going to go a different way. Unfortunately, had a grandchild who was born premature about 3 years ago and ended up passing away last year. So it was named River Hyde from Ontario now. It was a struggle, but I decided that if I win this, I'm going to put it in his name in honor of him and go to something that they call OS Okanagan Smilkameen Neurological Society Child and Youth Development Center. So that's who I'm playing for.
Nice.
And if we get any luck, hey, it'd be nice to put some money into them. All right. How did you guys do? Did you play at all?
Too busy. Just forgot all about it again. And then it was like, was into the Rider game, and I went, oh, I forgot to play. And then I was like, well, I could just go with the other 3 teams. Then I thought, nah, whatever, too late.
Yeah. So I handed my phone off to my son and my mom. And when I went and looked at it, it was all Alouettes except for Rankin. And they were nice, and they're like, oh, we put our Leary orange in for you. And I was like, I wish you hadn't. So I ended up with 97.8.
You still beat me, and frankly, you beat 3 of the 4 semifinalists in the league. Adam was the only one that was higher at about 113. He owns a farm out in Saskatchewan, so I've already gone on. Like I said, I don't trash talk really, but I just said, I know how busy it is, how much there is to do on a farm in Saskatchewan in October before the snow flies, and no time for fantasy football. Imagine you'll just be letting the page autofill, right? And he came back to me on that a bit. It was fun. Okay, I've also got to do a quick mea culpa.
We're sorry, so sorry.
Last week I was talking about the Riders' left tackle, and I called him Pete Collins. It's not. It's Peyton Collins. I'm sorry, Peyton. My bad there again. And the other thing we're going to jump to here, we don't have a whole lot of news, but a few things to go through. I'll let you maybe take this one, MJ. You said you got the request on Instagram.
Yeah, we had someone message us. Larry messaged us on Instagram, and he was curious. I guess we've never gone through this, but he was just curious if you would be willing to share a little bit about your backgrounds.
Sure. Do you want to go first, GT, or do you want me to?
You go first, old man, because as I could talk all night, and we would never get over it.
Okay. Well, on a cold and stormy night, no. My football stuff basically is I learned that I like football real early. I played 4 years of high school, and I've done a fair amount of coaching in the youth leagues out here in BC, everything from what they call junior bantam here, which is if I remember right, I think 11 and 12-year-olds, and up to what they call the midgets, which is just before junior. So that's up to 15 to 18-year-olds. I did some high schools, and frankly, I love the game so much. I credit most of my success in life to what I learned on the football field. It really helped. I ended up going into basically people leadership in my career, and learning how to be a team was a great help. So we did that, and then I retired and was getting bored and told this story a bit before. So I decided I wanted to do something. I started this podcast last year on my own, managed to get these folks to join in this year and make it much, much better. But when I did that, rather than have my own name, because I am a Saskatchewan Rough Rider fan, I created the persona of Oldman shouting at clouds so that I could be impartial. And actually, I want to thank the two of you on that, because he's sort of being pushed back from a persona to just a character I put on now. With all three of us here, I figure there's enough balance. I can let my green show a little bit. So that's me at this point. And I don't know, if you want anything else, you have to get more specific in your questions.
Well, I was my earliest football CFL memory is probably middle school, junior high, whatever you'd like to call it, where Jim Corrigal, there was a girl in my class in grade 7 whose uncle was Jim Corrigal, who used to play on the Argos. And he was outrageous as a player and outrageous as a personality. And he showed up at our school one day in his double blue Argo Cadillac with the Texas bullhorns on the front of it and a Awuga horn on the side of it. And I was like, this man is out of control. And that was probably my first one. Then shortly after that, or maybe even around that same time, when I was a kid, I had all kinds of jobs, as we all did, trying to make a little bit of cash. And one of them was selling newspaper subscriptions. And you'd go from house to house and knock on the door and try to get the person to subscribe to the local newspaper. It was the Toronto Telegram at the time. And so one day in November, in middle of November, I was out on a Sunday knocking on doors, and this woman opened the door, and there was a raucous party going on in the living room. It was packed, and there was all kinds of adults in there just yelling and having a grand old time. And I was like, what's going on? And this is the Grey Cup party. And that was my first experience of a Grey Cup party, of watching one live and having just people in their living room doing something. So then on to high school was myself and a buddy. He was from Edmonton, or somehow had something to do with Edmonton. And I was a big Montreal fan because I was a huge Johnny Rogers, the Ordinary Superstar fan, and Peter Delariva and Sonny Wade and all that crew. So in 1974, we had a bet on the Grey Cup between the two of us. And Montreal won and I won. So the next year we had a bet, and that was the first year that I had facial hair, that I grew my beard. So we bet beards, as we did. Both of us bet our beards against each other on the next year's Grey Cup, and he won with Edmonton, and that was the start. That was 1975. That was Edmonton. Fast forward to that. I told you this was a long story. Fast forward to that summer between grades, like a lot of people at that time, I hitchhiked across the country between grade 11 and grade 12 for my summer vacation. Hitchhiked from Ontario out to Vancouver and back. And one of the rides I got was tremendous. It was from Kamloops or thereabouts in the interior of BC, somewhere in that neck of the woods, all the way to Winnipeg. However, this gentleman that I got a ride with was a huge Blue Bomber fan, and he was going to Winnipeg. And he was stopping in Calgary to watch the Blue Bombers game no matter what. That was the game that night in Calgary on the way through. So there was two things that he needed to do. One was to make sure that he stopped in Banff because he'd never seen it, and then to stop in Calgary to get to this football game. So that's what we did. And we went to McMahon Stadium, bought tickets at the gate. And I fell in love with the city because I had been a big fan of the city. Fell in love with the city and fell in love with the football team and the atmosphere at McMahon. And I instantly switched allegiances from Montreal to Calgary and have been a Calgary fan ever since. I then moved back to Calgary the following year and lived there and became a season ticket holder and have been a season ticket holder in various cities as I've moved around the country ever since, but have never lost my allegiance to the Stampeders. So that's my Stampeder story. That's my kind of into it.
There we go. And how about you, MG? Are you going to lift the veil a little bit and let people know, or?
Well, I just come from a football family. I didn't even have a choice. Like, my mom is probably the biggest CFL football fan I know. You know, she in high school she ran the sticks at high school. And in fact, at her college, she almost didn't go to the college she went to because they didn't have a flag football team for her to play on. Growing up, every Grey Cup we had, my mom would make a football cake. Like, I grew up in a house divided. Like, my dad's a big BC Lions fan, my mom's an Elks fan, and all of us kids just slotted down, and like, I don't know what they did, but my sister and I, as you know, the Argos fan threw up on my shoes when we moved to
Yeah.
Hamilton. What a great first Labor Day classic to be at. And so, you know, I've moved a lot of places all over the country. Like GT, I've always cheered for the Ticats. In fact, I think my first date with my husband, I talked about the Montreal Alouettes and how much I despised them yet admired them for at least a half an hour, and he still married me. So I'm really happy to talk football, and it's just nice to talk with people who have a different perspective and come from different parts of the country, and it's just something that just brings everyone together, and I really enjoy it.
Thank you for that. And I got to say, it's with both of you that your love of the game comes across. And I think that's why the show is starting to resonate with people. And we're getting the people that want to come back and see us each week, because you can't fake that kind of passion and love for stuff. So anyway, hopefully was it Larry you said? Hopefully that's enough for Larry. Any other details, like I said, you'd have to be more specific on the questions.
Yeah, we'll talk Grey Cup stories when we get to that week, because there's probably a
Yeah,
few of those.
there could be that, yes. Oh, moving on now, though, so that we don't bog down too long. The Jake Gaudaur Award, where the nominees were announced this week. Now, it says the award recognizes a Canadian CFL player who best demonstrates the attributes of Canada's veterans: strength, perseverance, courage, comradeship, and contribution to Canadian communities. So this is a very prestigious award, and I've heard from players before that it's one that they take seriously, maybe more so than some of the other more performance awards. So we've got this year, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it all, but I'll run through them here just west to east. Sean White for the BC Lions, David Beard for the Edmonton Elks, Godfrey Onyeka for the Calgary Stampeders, Logan Furland, whose jersey I'm wearing and repping today, for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Brady Oliveira for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Keandre Smith for Hamilton Tiger Cats, Dejon Brissett for Toronto Argonauts, Justin Howell for Ottawa Redblacks, and Jeffrey Kenton Arcou for Montreal Alouettes. So wish them all good luck. Any one of those from everything I've heard about them, would be an excellent choice for the award itself.
Do you know who votes for these, old man? Is it the same reporters that vote for the other awards, or is this for some reason I think this is a different panel that ends up voting for this award?
I hadn't looked at that. Oh, here we go. The recipient will be chosen by a committee made up of Deborah Bethall from Veterans Affairs Canada, CFL on TSN analyst and former honorary colonel of the 417 Combat Squad veteran Glenn Suter, CFL Players Association Executive Director David Mackey, and CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnson. Wish them well with that. And I believe that is announced on Grey Cup week as well. So let's see, where are we going from there? You were mentioning, MJ, that the Elks are helping out during the teacher strike in Alberta there.
Yeah, if my eyes look a little tired, it's because we're week 2 into teacher strike here in Alberta. I'm hanging in there, but this is really awesome. For high school players, this is a big deal to not have practice time, to not have games. Like, you can't play in the winter here. So what the Elks have done is they're having practices on Tuesdays and Thursdays for all of October during the strike, so that for a certain number of kids for free. at Commonwealth Stadium so kids can keep practicing, and they're going to have some players and coaches from the team and then some coaches from like Football Alberta, et cetera, et cetera. So what a way to step up and help some kids out during a really tough time for students and football players.
Yeah, it's good to see them doing stuff like that. The more that they can get those promotions out in the community, that's how you build the league the way that they claim that they want to.
That's a tremendous initiative. That's really good on multiple levels. It keeps kids coming back. It gets them into the local team instead of just the teams on. It gives them a lot of help probably in professional coaching as well. So good all the way around.
Yes, and I have full empathy for what you're going through on the teachers' strike there. But I will mention we're maybe one step worse here in BC because the liquor stores are all closed with them on strikes.
Imagine if they were both on strike at once.
Oh yeah, no, you'd never survive.
That doesn't impact your privates though, or does it as well? Because are the
No,
privates running out?
Well, yeah, that's the thing is that the private stores are still open, but the people that do the deliveries to them are part of the union.
Right.
So,
Okay.
for instance, I stopped this weekend, thought, yeah, maybe I'd get some vodka for some martinis, and 3 different stores, and the only choice I found was either a Polar Ice orange vodka or a Polar Ice cinnamon sugar vodka. Yeah. So, yeah, we're hoping they sign something soon because it's getting desperate. Anyway, we also other stuff to talk about. Oh, you mentioned something about pinball as a parade marshal, GT.
Yeah, so you may or may not be aware of it, but Kitchener-Waterloo in southern Ontario here has a huge German population historically. And so they have a massive Oktoberfest celebration every year, and it's huge. It draws hundreds of thousands of people, and it happens in early October. And for the last few games at the Argo games, and when we've been there, they've been doing this weird announcement about something about Oktoberfest in Kitchener, and we've never really known why they were doing it or didn't say anything. And then my son lives in Kitchener, so he and his family always go to the Oktoberfest parade. And all of a sudden, yesterday, on Thanksgiving morning, at the parade, he sends me pictures, and it's Pinball as the parade marshal at the Kitchener Oktoberfest parade. So I sent it back. Who says the Argos don't market?
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting because that's generally considered Tycat territory. The whole Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo corridor is kind of considered Tycat territory. So, yeah, it's closer to Hamilton than it is Toronto. So I thought that was a little interesting, but nonetheless, it was also great because, you know, as my son said, yeah, he's got the smile and wave down perfectly. Pinball is that guy, right? He could always run for mayor in any of the city in Ontario and win for sure.
And he does so much giving back to the communities. It's good to see. Oh, I'm going to throw this back to you, MJ, because you guys, the two of you were talking in some of our earlier text and email exchanges that there's some people unhappy with the Grey Cup passes this year.
I think this was a big deal, but apparently it is a very big deal.
Oh, it's a huge deal. If it's the way you're described, it's a huge deal.
So the quick rundown is that the Grey Cup Society is doing the Canada social theme. So they're running it kind of like a music festival type thing where you buy a 3-day pass, and your 3-day pass gets you into 3 concerts, which is The Watchmen, Alan Doyle, and the Wreck Laws. And then it gets you into all the team parties like Spirit of Edmonton and whoever else is doing things. And it was $99, and it got you 3 days all access pass. So now the passes are sold out. There's no single day passes, and there's no walk-ups. I don't really know how these tickets or who knew, because I didn't even know about it. And then I went to the website and it said it was sold out. So I'm not sure if people who bought Grey Cup tickets got first dibs on these. But anyway, people are threatening to cancel their flight because they're like, we don't even go to the game. We just go to the party. And I was like, oh, do you? I was like, I had no idea.
100%. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, this is huge, and I did not hear about this. And I was, as I asked you in our notes previously, I wondered whether it was something that when they did the announcement of the whole Grey Cup event back in June when they first mentioned it all, if it was in that literature and we just didn't notice it, because I'm not going this year, so I didn't, didn't dive deep enough into the literature to notice it. And maybe that's what happened with a whole bunch of other people as well. And that's why it's just come up now, because people are finally kind of making their plans. It's only a month away. So you're starting to look at, okay, what am I going to do? What night? Where am I going? Etc. Where are all the parties? But this is a complete fiasco. If this is the case, this has just ruined the Grey Cup weekend. Completely ruined the Grey Cup weekend if this is the case. It does not matter how many people they have. If it's held at a convention center and they could put a couple of thousand people in each room, then that means there's like 8,000 different people there. That's still not enough. That's still not enough. And it takes away everybody that just wants to go and go that night. The fact that you had to buy a ticket in advance and it's $100 and you can't just go to the Spirit of Edmonton, which has always been free. Riderville has generally always been free. Tycat Town has generally always been free. The only ones that charge, the first one to charge that I can remember was the Stampeders, and it was $20 to get into the Stampeders, and I was ticked. I was not happy. You're just limiting it to mostly Stampeder fans, and that's not what the event's about. This is really not good. I can understand the uproar about it, and I would be furious if I had tickets to this year's Grey Cup and going to Winnipeg and just found out now that I can't go to any of the parties. That is the point of the weekend. The football game is the exclamation point. The point of the weekend is the Grand National Drunk. And you don't do that unless you're going to at least 4 or 5 different parties. And you stand in line for 2 to 3 hours to get into one of those parties. But if I can't even stand in line for 3 hours and drink on the street like I'm used to doing, then what is the point in going for the entire weekend? This is a complete debacle if this is the case. And I can't believe that Winnipeg did this, if that's the only way. Because when I read the note, when you told me you forwarded it, the link, I went and it says the $100 or $99 gives you exclusive rights to the parties. But it doesn't say that's the only way you get in. So I wasn't sure. But now, if you've clarified that that's the only way you get in, that's horrible.
I'm not 100% sure. It's just like what people who have tickets to things have told me. So I'm not sure. I honestly thought I was like, oh, great, a 3-day pass. Just put my wristband on and I'll just like waltz wherever I want, which I thought was kind of a good idea. But apparently, no.
No, because, and I can understand from your point of view as you can go. But what about the guy that, like me, that's flying in for the weekend and all of a sudden I can't go? That means that if that room is sold out, you can't even stand in line to get in because the room is sold out. Before, you stood in line and 10 people left and they let in the next 10 people. And then 6 more people left and they let in another 6 people. So it was always at 2,000, but it was a constantly moving 2,000. Now, there may be 400 people in a 2,000 seat room, but the event is sold out, so nobody can get in. So that's crazy. That's
so
just
so is everyone at Spirit of Edmonton and no one's at like the Argos party? Like,
no, everybody goes to all the parties. That's the point.
Yeah, right.
And
so
you want to do it whenever you want.
because they advertise it as like Canada Social, you would think, but maybe that's why they tried to do it as like a music festival pass. But then even music festivals have like 1-day passes. So interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
For me, it's not that they're going to charge for it. I can live with that. Everything's costing more now. Everybody's got to get some money. But it's limiting the number of these passes they're going to sell, because that to me doesn't make sense. Like you said, JT, the places are all popular, but some are more popular than others. If you've got this 3-day pass, it's not specifically for Spirit of Edmonton or for Riderville or for the Argos party or whatever. So you may have some of them that are packed and people lining up still waiting to get in, and others that are empty because they won't. Like, how do they determine what their maximum number of passes are? To me, just sell if you're going to sell the passes, do it, and then run it like you always have. You get there, and whatever you want to go to, like you said, go stand in the line and do that.
Well, and what time are the concerts on, and what time are these team parties on?
Yeah.
Team parties generally run anywhere from 2 in the afternoon until 2 in the morning, and you just wander from room to room in those 12 hours. Then there's specific ones like the kitchen party for the East Coast of the Atlantic Schooners kitchen party usually is an afternoon event and runs noon till 5 type of idea. Some of them, if they're in smaller venues, depending on what venues they have, they might only run from 8 till midnight or something, but most of them are generally the biggest of the four big ones, which are Edmonton, Calgary, Saskatchewan, and Hamilton. Those are the 4 largest rooms at all times. Those generally run somewhere from 2 in the afternoon until 2 in the morning.
Yeah. And see, if you're selling enough of these passes to fill all of those different team parties, then all your pass holders can't get into the concert anyway. So you got people coming going, well, I've got an exclusive right to the concert. Sorry, it's already full. Because you can't fit as many people in the concert as you get into all the parties.
Yeah, I
Well,
wonder how they did this.
I don't know where the concerts are being held. I didn't really stay on that little brief thing. So I don't know if they're at a different venue. Maybe they're at the Burton Cummings Theater or something each night. So then you're like, okay, so for 3 hours, rather than go to a Spirit of Edmonton, I'm going to go to the Burton Cummings Theater to see Alan Doyle. Then I'll come back and go after Alan Doyle's finished at 11 o'clock. I'm going to come back and go to Ryderville. Because that might be the thought process, which makes perfect sense. I've done that plenty of times myself. So I get it, but as you say, if they've sold 2,000 tickets to 2,000 passes so they can fill up Ryderville, but Burton Cummings Theater only holds 1,000, what happens if all 2,000 people want to go to see Alan Doyle and can't get in?
Yeah.
It's a schmozzle.
I hope that we're missing something in how it's been reported, because I agree with you, this could really put a damper on the Grey Cup weekend. Well, seems like, maybe the CFL is trying to discourage us. I don't know.
I
That's
said
cynical of me.
maybe we could always just have the Grey Cup in BC. It'll be dry and warm. There'll be mountains. There'll be transit. And you know that Doman's going to get a really great act for halftime.
Yeah, and again, just to remind everybody that it's not the league, it is the city of Winnipeg. It's the Winnipeg Grey Cup committee that this snafu falls back on. Having said that, certainly the league has to have some input here and be aware of this and should have been aware of it. I don't know if this fell through cracks in the search for a new commissioner or whatever, but somebody should have had some oversight here to go, wait, guys, what are you doing? This is not the way it's supposed to work.
This is not their first time hosting Grey Cup.
No, it's not. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure who. Yeah, I'm really not sure who buggered this up. But somebody, if it's the way we read it, is somebody's buggered this up for sure.
Probably somebody new in the committee that's got the best way to handle everything. And anyway,
so we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully they got it. We're getting it wrong and it's better, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's move on to other stuff. A quick news item: the Riders did extend Corey Mace and Jeremy O'Day for 2-year extensions on their contracts. That takes them through to 2028. Hopefully we don't end up in a situation next fall like Ottawa, who extended Burke and Dice and are now going, but the salary cap. So I don't know what's going to happen there. And I thought I'd just not bother going through all the coaches here, but in light of the fact that they've been extended, so they're pretty much guaranteed to be there for the 2 years. What about the other coaches in the league? I think most of them are secure. Any thoughts on whom? Well, Mr. Dice looks like it could be an issue, depending on what happens there, but any thoughts on anybody else who could be feeling their seat getting a little bit warm?
Well, I think the entire Ottawa coaching staff has to be feeling some heat. And even if Dice sticks around because of the coach's cap, I would think both of the coordinators have to be feeling some heat. They haven't performed in any area at all, so I can't see them not making some kind of move. There's got to be a sacrificial lamb there for sure. Toronto, there might be a position coach or two that might be on the hot seat. Not sure exactly which ones, but I'm not a big fan of their co-defensive coordinators this year. I thought last year they did a much better job together than they did. Who's the second guy that came over from Edmonton?
Yes, he was with Saskatchewan.
He was with Saskatchewan. Then he was Chris Jones' guy.
Yeah, I should remember it, but
I'm not a. Yeah, I know. Well, because you're trying to forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And I've never been a real big fan. So I'm they kind of couldn't get Monson, so settled on him. And I think that's part of their issue. We talked all year about Benavides in BC, but recently, all of a sudden, they're playing pretty well, their defense. So I think he's maybe more secure than I thought he was going to be. I think Calgary's pretty safe right now, surprisingly enough.
I was beginning to wonder about Calgary, to tell you the truth, but I think with this performance that they've come back with this last weekend, it may not be so bad for them. But if they had trended the way that they did the last 4 weeks and just kept going that and got knocked out in the first round, then I had some questions. But the other one, quite frankly, that I wonder about, and it sounds so bizarre because people seem like they're so loyal to him, but it's O'Shea in Winnipeg. Because I've actually been standing in a lineup at a grocery store and had 3 or 4 Bomber fans there and ended up talking to them because I was wearing my Rider stuff, of course. And I was really surprised how annoyed they were at O'Shea. And bloody coach gets us to 5 Grey Cups, but he only wins 2 of them. It's time to go to someone else. People have pretty high demands, and I don't think they've re-signed him yet. So he's been 1-year deals all along. So I wonder if he'll be back or if there might be someone else.
I'm going to say 3 coaches' names, and I don't think that they're getting fired, but I think that they are going to have quite the end-of-year interview to account for actions. That is Scott Milanovich, Ryan Dinwiddie, and Mike O'Shea. I think those 3 coaches have some questions to be answered. And Ottawa's in a tricky spot. It's a tricky spot because they basically need to clean house and they can't with the coach's cap. So either you kind of stick with some people and try to ride it out, or you clean house and hopefully some guys will come in cheap. So I don't know, but Tommy Condell needs to not be there. Bob Dice needs to not be there.
Yeah, I think the coach's cap, impacts your head coach more than it impacts your positional coaches, because most of the positional coaches are on 1-year deals, 1 year anyway. So if you move on from one of them, you're not too tied up with money going forward. Some of them are on multiple year deals, but for most of them, I believe they're on 1-year deals. You do get that 1 year, you do get that one mulligan, so to speak, where it doesn't impact the cap. So if there's only 1 year left on Dice's contract, they could move on from him and not impact their cap. But I don't know, again, if he signed through 2026 or 2027. That's the question. If he signed through 2027, they're eating at least a year of it. If he signed through 2026, then they'll get the mulligan and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. He got an extension earlier this year, but I don't know how long it was. So he's definitely extended, I believe, through the end of next year and possibly longer.
So even if the Red Blacks do clean house and they start with all new coach, they almost end up in the Elks situation where they basically cleaned house, and then you're going to have to get players used to coaches and kind of muddle through probably halfway through the season again. And how much more are Red Black fans going to be able to put up with something like that?
Yeah, I think Red Blacks fans at this point want to see changes from top to bottom, coaching and players. They're going to, we've talked about it. There's definitely need to do something. The natives are absolutely restless there.
Yes, and my magic brain, well, actually, my magic typing fingers tell me it's Jason Shivers we were trying to think of there in Toronto.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Him and Kevin Iben are the defensive co-coordinators there. Okay, well, that's pretty much the news that we have for now. Let's get to the games, and the first one was Toronto going into Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan wins 27-19. I'm wearing the obsidian green in celebration of first place. I'm not sure. I think we've done that 4 times in the last 30 years or something. So you learn to appreciate them in Riderville. But the game itself wasn't great. I said last week, I thought the Ottawa game and this one both looked to me like Saskatchewan was basically just, let's get this win to get us into the championship. And it was a workmanlike type effort. And they did allow Toronto to hang around. It was only 5 points in the end, but to me, it never really felt like it was too much in doubt. They still seemed to be in control of it. I thought the story of the game, and I almost did a rant about this. I was very, very hot under the collar at the game when they put Dogie back in for the second half after his head had bounced off the carpet 2 or 3 times. And
That was unbelievable.
yeah, because that's,
I have a timeline.
go ahead.
Well, it's not, I don't have the exact timestamps and stuff, but it's okay. So Deggy hits head, player safety removes him. Back in, helmet to helmet hit, back off. Back on, head hits off ground, back off. Back on, helmet hits ground again, back off. So he hit his head 4 times, 3 off the turf, like bounced off the turf, and 1 as a helmet to helmet.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
and the thing is, concussion is not an exact science. We don't know what we're doing with this. We do know that the more, if you have one, even if it's a very mild one that they couldn't detect, because they're supposed to have an independent doctor there saying whether it's safe or not. So maybe he didn't have concussion symptoms, but when you've been hit several times like that, you're in a situation where your life could be changed by one more bad hit. And I've seen that happen. How much you can affect people.
Grabbing the back of his head.
Yeah.
Doing this. Like,
yeah, like he was grabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought there was no way in the world that he should have been playing that second half, but he did. I'll say this: Milanovic gets a lot of credit for being the quarterback builder, the one who takes these quarterbacks and builds them back into something great. I think it should be Dinwiddie who gets, because whoever he has under center for the team, they perform. Like,
okay, Ryan
Daggy
is also the one who sent his quarterback out 3 more times after being hit in the head. So you're not a quarterback coach.
Yeah.
No,
You might build him up. No, I get your point, but he's completely disregarding player safety of a quarterback.
Yeah, and again, the thing that I was thinking of when watching it was like, it doesn't even matter. Like, sure, you could say you're playing to win, and and he gives you the best chance to win. You're out of the playoffs. It's already over. You're in the show me what you've got with your 3 young quarterbacks. You had 2 other guys dressed there that you could have just as easily, let play. They've said, so there was no reason that Daggy was the only, it's not like he was the only guy dressed. So there was no reason to continue to take that punishment. No reason at all.
I agree with that completely.
When he was out there.
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry.
4 for 5. Yeah, he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I do not get it. And the thing is, I started thinking, it's not even a game that matters, but in the end, that shouldn't matter. It could be in the Grey Cup, and if somebody gets like that, you shouldn't be doing that stuff.
Dickinson,
But,
VA got pulled off.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even, they said he wasn't even head, right? It was ended up being something else, his back or something. But Dickinson didn't put him back on.
Yeah.
He stayed off the whole rest of the game.
Yeah. Yes. And agree with everything you're saying there. What I was trying to say was more on just like the technical side. The one thing that you do have to agree with Dinwiddie is whoever plays quarterback for him, he manages to somehow get the most out of them. Like, this is not the Daggy that started a game for Edmonton by any means. So you got to give them that, I guess. To me, that was the game. Saskatchewan got up on top and they seemed to be comfortable with this idea of playing with like a less than 1 score lead, and that's what they did. Their defense, which was taped together, basically duct tape and baler twine, especially in the backfield, with 3 first-time sort of starters or first-year starters there. They held, and Redwine, who was playing for Milligan, put a hell of a hit on Meitel that definitely said, welcome, here, I'm in the CFL, pay attention. Now, other than that, they got their 1 touchdown when Toronto did, when AJ fumbled on about, I think, the 35 or 40-yard line, and 1 quick pass straight to the end zone for Brissett, which was a beautiful pass. But that was really the only major they got, I believe. I think they were pretty much on field goals other than that. And you guys got anything else to say about it?
Well, there was the story before the game that Harris has been playing with a bum shoulder, and that's the reason that he's not been able to pass as long and not been as on it in the last few games. I thought the first major play of the game on that slant run across the top, I think it was Emelis that came across from the left to the right and then took off down the field and just outran all the defenders. That was a beautifully executed play by Saskatchewan. And I had to tip my hat. I said to my wife, I said, that was a great play. And he just outran everybody. That was tremendous. After that, again, yeah, they played well enough to win, but they didn't play well. They didn't think that they looked not just flat like the other two teams did the next two games, but I don't know. The last few games, they just haven't looked like they're clicking or something. Against a better team, they wouldn't have won that game. They simply wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And
They
maybe they
should
would
have
have played.
had. They
Maybe
should
they're
have had a
playing.
much higher score on this game.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they're playing down to the opponent. I don't know, but they're not playing really good football right now. They're just not.
No, I would agree. In fact, the defense outplayed the offense, and the defense was the one with all the injuries to it and everything. So, it's
Wins a
what
win.
it is. There was, yeah, wins a win, and there were exciting moments, mostly sort of not specifically because of plans or anything. There was at one point there was a punt where they got a contacting the kicker call, which I thought was a little iffy. I thought the blocker got pushed into the kicker. But then down at the other end, they got a no yards call, and all of a sudden they talk it all out, and it ends up with Calgary going back 5 yards and having to kick again, and Saskatchewan gets the return probably at least plus 30 yards what they had before. There was weird officiating and some of this stuff that just didn't make so much sense to me. But I did notice Coach Mace went from 37% in his challenges. He was 3 of 5. He's now at 500 because he's got 2 good ones, so he's 5 of 10. Oh, and probably penalties were not too bad. There was, what was it? Well, I guess for Toronto it were, 11 for 118, and they took them at bad times, yeah. Saskatchewan was up there too, I guess, 70 of 7 for penalties for 70. But my favorite story from the night didn't come from the television broadcast. It came from the radio broadcast, talking about this American kicker that they brought in to try and take on or gives them back up for Lowther. They said the story was first day of practice, he gets all his gear and he comes running out to the sidelines, and Coach Mace is standing there, so he runs up and introduces himself, and sort of stands there beside him, watching for a bit, and then says, "So what position do you coach?" Yeah. Luckily, they said Mace was able to chuckle about it, but I like that story. Anything
He's
else, or
so
do I move
thrilled
on?
that he looked young enough to be playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a few things. One, Lawther's got his mojo back. Nothing like some drama and some competition to kind of get you back in gear. Drew got called in a PI, and he was wearing like his CFL, like his breast cancer. He was wearing his pink gloves. But when you're wearing pink gloves,
Yes.
everyone can see
what you're doing. Yes.
that you kind of tugged a jersey just a little bit. And I was like, oh, if you had black gloves on, we might not have been able to tell so much. But with those Obsidians jerseys, but you had this. So if you are wearing pink gloves, you got to be careful.
Exactly. Don't call attention to yourself. Well, they also, you got to say this or at least I've always seen this. You get your money's worth as far as tension and excitement goes anytime the Riders play. Because, like I said, they seemed comfortable. They were within a 5-point game. And even in the last 3 minutes of the game, they were trying to run out the clock and had the ball about 55-yard line or so, somewhere in there, and 3rd and 1, and they went for it and didn't get it. But first time I've ever seen anything like it, there was actually a shot from overhead that could see where the ball ended up, and Mace challenges it and gets the ball moved ahead 3 inches, and that's enough for the first down.
I was surprised. That was, again, a bit of a weird kind of, okay, who's in charge of where the ball's placement is? Yeah, and there was a couple of angles, a couple of television shots with that spider cam that were really disorienting and really not good. There was like, whoa, your eyeball just couldn't keep up with it.
Wanted to throw up a little bit watching
Yeah.
that. I was like, could you just don't use it for replay. Don't show me.
Yeah. It was a bit off-putting with it. But I don't think I've ever seen a spot be moved in a short yardage situation like that. It's just, they lucked out that I guess the evidence was there. It was, but like I said, nothing's ever easy in those games.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to
No,
the.
oh no, I'm not.
No, you got more. Okay.
I have to tell you my TSN shady moment.
Oh, of course, yeah. Okay.
So they had a nice close up of Mace with his jaw dropped after one of Brissett touchdown,
Yes. Yeah, that was perfect.
and they showed it several times. Thank you, TSN. And also, Luke Wilson got a good ribbing for being a Yankees fan as well. He deserves. This is the past before the Blue Jays dropped 2 in the ALCS. But at the time, the Yankees lose, and they all gave him a hard time for being a Yankees fan, and that made me happy.
I just noticed I did have one other thing. They mentioned in the game that AJ had more carries as a rider running back than anybody since 2013 with Corey Sheets. So I think Rider fans are feeling pretty good about that comparison, because we know how 2013 turned out. Okay, can we move on now? No more shade, no more.
No, we can talk about this sad game.
Okay, well, we'll go on to the next game, and we'll let GT talk about it a lot, and then you can just jump through your observations. Because unfortunately for the fans of the Tiger Cats, Calgary was in Hamilton. Looked like everybody thought it was going to be a Hamilton win. No question about it. Calgary 37, Hamilton 20.
Yeah, well, this game was actually the score. It doesn't flatter Calgary by any means, because they won the game and they deserve to win. But it was close until late. So Hamilton, even for all the hand wringing that I've seen and heard, they were kind of still in the game right through till about 8 or 9 minutes left, and then Calgary put in a couple up on them late to take it away. It was 27-20, I think, with less than 6 minutes left. But I will say, from the get-go, I thought Calgary just wanted this game more. The same thing happened in the next game when we get to it. They just wanted this game, and they came out and played like they wanted this game more. And the defense made, the interception rate off the top by Adrian Green kind of gave the defense the mojo back. VA running the ball early in the game, taking off on 2 scampers. He ran with purpose, not just running for his life. That made a difference. I thought he only threw 3 balls all game that I was like, eee, and he got away with all 3 of them, which was great. But other than that, he threw again where he needed to, when he needed to. And the running game was just, considering the offensive line was, who are these guys and where are they playing? Because they were moving around all over the place. They couldn't get stopped. It was 230 yards or something on the ground. It was crazy numbers. Choquette looked terrific. I've been a big fan of his all year, so that was good. I was glad Clark Barnes, on the one that he went off on the sidelines and got his wrist banged up, it wasn't injured. It wasn't that bad. He came back in and caught another real nice pass later. Philpott's long bomb was a beauty. Brooks' long bomb was a beauty. Yeah, they just played very, very well. And they lost a couple more guys, like their right tackle, Coker's gone again now. I saw an interview with Dickinson today saying Coker's gone. Richardson? Yeah, I think it's Richardson, that covered Kenny Lawler all night and did a really good job. Apparently he's got an injury, so he might not be there next week. So they'll be scrambling around again a bit going up against Toronto this weekend. But yeah, they just looked like they were back to playing the way that they had been playing. Even when when they were playing well, not when they were just catching people unaware, but when they were playing well. That's the main thing. So that's really what I saw. And Hamilton made a lot of mistakes. They just made a lot of mistakes. Bo was on and off. He made some that looked great, and some other ones that didn't look great. Tim White caught one real nice one and dropped one wide open. Greg Bell had a couple of runs in the third quarter, but other than that, he did nothing. Their defense harassed VA, but not enough to stop them. So again, they just weren't there altogether. They're kind of schizophrenic. They're not quite Winnipeg schizophrenic, but they're there. They're close.
Remember when they got Casantonis had 3 sacks the week before?
Hmm.
So VA had 29 yards rushing. Bell had 31 yards rushing. The defense, 1 sack, 0 interceptions on VA. They had 4 sacks on Bo and 2 interceptions. So, and then my note here says, it doesn't matter where the goalposts are or how big the end zone is. Tim White will always drop a critical pass. And that kind of just sums up his play, kind of sums up the Ticats this year. Either they're going to make you cry or you're going to just walk right over them. I don't think they're a serious team. In fact, I said this week, I said the Ticats and the Riders aren't good teams right now. And no one came at me for saying that about the Ticats, but did I ever hear it from some people about me saying that about the Riders?
Well, yeah, they get touchy there.
Yeah, I heard it and I was like, no, you know what? No, just because you're in first place doesn't mean like you're trending. Like these are 2 teams that are trending down.
Yeah.
And you're not peaking at the right time. You both are sitting in first place, but I don't know how you're going to do in playoffs.
Yeah, well, we'll probably talk a bit more about that as we get into sort of even looking at the games coming ahead here. But yeah, no, I spent a good portion of the game screaming at the TV, "Stop throwing at White!" Because I mean, I just checked, he was over 50%. He caught 8 of 14. So but that's
8
still
of
6.
14. That's embarrassing.
He just badly dropping them, and I don't know.
Where was O'Leary Orange this game? They just no consistency on.
Well, you can't. I didn't expect O'Leary Orange to repeat his performance, but the thing is, though, that they seem to be having their offense built around White. Like they were throwing to him more than anyone else, and he just
Oh,
wasn't.
I know. It's terrible.
Yeah, this was the game I was thinking about actually. That I said it was when I knew that there was one of them was very low penalties. This I was impressed when I looked at it. Calgary had 3 for 15 yards, and Hamilton had 0. So real disciplined game between the teams. You got to say that at least. I said to me, the whole game looked like Hamilton just thought they had other things they would rather be doing than they're playing football that day. They didn't seem to have any jump in their step. In fact, I had Keandre Smith on my fantasy team, and he was targeted 5 times, got 3 of them for 33 yards, so almost nothing. And I could see why, because they had a shot of him in the third quarter there where they're all in the huddle, and Keandre's lets out this huge yawn. Really, that bored? Maybe if you...
Someone else was yawning on the sideline. They caught them. Who was it? They must have been out partying. There's got to be a story behind this.
Well, trap game or whatever. And then the other one that I thought just was worth mentioning was Giovanni Robinson had a catch, and I said, that's got to be the slowest catch in football history, because he caught it somewhere sort of up around his head, and then he's twisting it around, and you can see the DB coming in to run in and slap it off of his head, and he's just back and forth, and then finally, just in time, gets it down. I like things like that.
Yeah, and just to follow up on your weekly update on TSN Shady Moments, MJ, I thought the shady moment of the game was like when Calgary scored and to go up 30 at the 37-20 mark, and there was I don't know how much time was left, a few minutes left, and TSN showed the outside shot of the stadium just emptying.
Yeah.
Not even like the outside of the stadium,
Yes.
just people coming streaming down the stairs, and I'm like, yeah, that's a. I thought of you.
Yeah.
TSN shady moment.
Yes.
All I know is that the Ticats put the wind back in VA's sails. What a boost for him, and so sorry everyone else in the West Division. Looks like VA might be back.
Yeah. Well, VA plus that defense, I have to agree with what GT said. They looked like they did back, mid-July, late July, when they were playing extremely well. And full credit to, I forget even who did the announcing in the game, but they mentioned that part of it was they just did seem to become a lot more aggressive on defense again. I have to say that makes some sense to me. They looked like part of what had gone wrong with them was the fact that they weren't getting those picks and they weren't really challenging hard. And for whatever reason, they got their confidence back and Green got them started early there. So shall we move on to the next game? And this one, I think, was probably the best game of the weekend. It wasn't a great, in my opinion, it wasn't a great weekend for football overall. For Calgary fans like you, GT, would be very happy with their team, but that wasn't a great game that between them and Hamilton. Whereas at least with Winnipeg, there was some excitement there. Winnipeg and Edmonton. So it was Winnipeg going into Edmonton and losing. Edmonton 25, Winnipeg 20. So go ahead, MJ. Tell us all the exciting stuff.
Yes. So I told you that the Elks would win for my mom's birthday, and they did. So I feel really bad for Elks and Elks fans because they're hot right now, and it just started a little too late.
Yeah.
I mean, their playoff hopes are still alive, and there was some drama. There's some controversy because they needed to win by 13 points to get a point differential on Winnipeg. And I think Killam said after the game that he was going for the win, not for the point differential. Because the 3 Down Nation guys were like, well, he should have just gone for it. And even if they lost the game, I was like, no, you do not lose this game at Commonwealth in front of people. So the weather, it was the kind of rain that it's so cold you wish it was snowing instead. So all day it was blustery and cold and raining. And I was like, oh man, whoever went, because we had thought about going to the game. And then we were like, no, I'm not sitting outside in that to watch this game. Turns out it was like the best game of the weekend. But so I was expecting a pretty gross game. And the people that did show up, like you don't play to you don't gamble with that. You just play to win a game and let the other chips fall where they may. So you can bash kill them all you want for that, but at some point that a win is a win. That was, I think, for the franchise longevity, that was more important than a 13-point differential.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that. And the other thing is, how stupid would you feel if you decide, "Oh, we're going to try and get that 13 points and you end up throwing an interception or something and lose the game, and then Winnipeg loses out the season
Yep.
and you would have had, the shot." Or I believe that they still have an outside shot with Calgary too. But anyway, so, yeah, no, I agree. When you've got the win, if there's something there, take it, but don't try and push and get your extra points.
No, especially in football where so many things can happen. There's so many ways to score. And it's just no. So just a few things. The Blanchard had a tough day at the office. He was 1 for field goals. Castillo is clearly used to inclement weather and had no problems. 2 of the best plays happened in this game. So the special teams touchdown that got bobbled, Elks caught it, it fumbled. About 20 people touched the ball between the 2 teams, and then the Elks finally recovered it and ran it in for a touchdown. So that was pretty exciting. And I thought, surely nothing can top this. That was a pretty amazing touchdown. And then Wilson in the end zone, thanks Tyrell for helping. So it butt bobbled. Tyrell tried to knock it out of the air. All he did was knock it towards Wilson. And then Wilson, we thought for sure it was on the ground. And then they showed the slow-mo. No, his hands were underneath it, and he caught that pass.
Well, he got the one hand under it and tipped it back to himself off the ground. Yeah.
It's on every single social media site available. You can watch it 1,000 times, but it was great.
Yes, I agree with you. Those were definitely the best 2 plays. I had the punt return marked down as the Leak Jackson combo punt return. I don't think I've ever seen that before, other than maybe a lateral in one. But yeah.
The greatest joy, the greatest horror of the football is that it can bounce in any manner of ways. There is no rhyme or reason to it. Then on he wasn't on the field. Tyrell Ford got called on a low hit. And it was, interesting because it hasn't been called all year. And I think there was other things in the game. So I was like, interesting that it got called today at this moment in time. I wasn't quite sure why, because it hadn't been being called, but they called it. And it wasn't even called on the field. The video replay center reviewed it and called it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had the same concerns that you do, MJ. I mean, if you're going to call those, that's fine, but
Fine, but call
he
it.
wasn't defenseless at the time. He'd caught the ball and he started turning around. I've seen that hit made over and over and over again in the CFL this year and nothing called. And now all of a sudden, yeah, that I don't quite get.
They said on the broadcast that was the new rule this year, the interpretation of the new rule this year, which I wasn't sure about. I thought it was just a reputational one where they got him. They finally said, enough. You're hitting people too low. You've been doing it all year, and we've had enough of it. And you guys said this was the best game of the weekend. It might have been. I will say that I didn't think it was that great a game. I thought it was much like the Calgary game. I thought it was very similar. Edmonton wanted the game from the beginning. Winnipeg looked like they didn't care, just like Hamilton looked like they didn't care. They played well enough. There was that outstanding catch, but take that away, that miraculous touchdown, and the game's not close. And I didn't think I thought Zach looked like Bo. He wasn't right on. He was missing stuff. It was schizophrenic Zach, as you've said before, old man, where he's on and off. And I just didn't think they played that well all together, and they didn't look like they cared that much. And I thought Edmonton from the get-go said, we're going to win this game, just like Calgary had done earlier in the day, and came out and showed it. And they just won going away because of it. Even though I thought Winnipeg did a pretty good job of containing Rankin for most of the game, he still got a couple of decent ones. But yeah, I just think, again, I didn't think it was that outstanding. Now, I will say that I was speeding through most of it. I wasn't watching it in real time, so perhaps that was part of it. But I just looked at it and went, this game reminds me of the game earlier in the day. Just one team wants it, one team doesn't really care.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when I said it best game of the weekend, that wasn't actually high praise for the game itself. It's more about what the other three games were like.
Yes, the bar is low.
Yes.
What else happened? Dembski hurt his hamstring.
Yes.
That was what a blow for the Blue
Yeah,
Bombers.
and he's been a game time decision the last couple of weeks, so hopefully this isn't.
He was just running. Didn't even, no one was touching him. He just grabbed the back of his leg, so that's pretty worrisome. And then I want to shout out the Elks linebacker. Oh, I'm going to say his name wrong. Mogensen? Is that how I say it?
Yeah.
He had a great game.
Yes, he did.
Oh, what a great addition. Yeah, he was on fire. Yeah.
Coming out of nowhere,
Coming out of nowhere, so good news for the Elks.
They're going to have some linebacking decisions, as we talked about before. When they get their full core back there next year, they're going to have some real definite decisions to make on who they're going to keep, and if they're not going to keep them, how they're going to hide them. Because they've got some players there. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Strength of the team, definitely.
Yeah, and then I like that TSN. The shady moments weren't so shady this time. The Tyrell and Brady bromance. They showed them a lot with their arms around each other and like chatting away and smiling, and it was really nice to see. And then my mom was so happy Dusty called this game because she's like, nothing makes those two plays better than Dusty called, like those. Dusty and Lapo are they're a good combo. So that was nothing like Lapo just breaking down those, and Dusty just like enthusiasm. So it was a great. So
they much better than was it Ford that was with Marshall Ferguson on the Hamilton game? That was, I did not find that a good call. I did notice though that this was impressive to me. This was the third game in a row. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to go back and find it. I'm pretty sure it was one of the Toronto defenders in that game. Riders game, Sales made a play. In the Edmonton game, it was Garnes at safety, and there was one, I'm pretty sure it was, in the Calgary Hamilton game, and I can't think who it would have been, but where DBs were beaten badly and somehow came back and just got a fingertip on a pass in the end zone to redirect it. Seeing something like that once a weekend is impressive to me. Getting it from three different players through the games, it was nice to see the skill levels are still there. And The last thing, maybe just to end this on a positive note, is they also mentioned during the game that with the Grey Cup going on, that the Bombers are working with 700 different schools, that they've given out flag footballs and equipment and logoed shirts and whatnot in there. So the kind of stuff that the CFL should be doing to promote it. I thought that was good. And that takes us to the last game of the weekend, which frankly, unless you were a Montreal fan, you probably could have spent the 3 hours somehow better. It was not a great game at all. It's just the Als dominated it. There was some excitement to it. Dequoy got what I was calling the trifecta. He blocked the punt, he scooped it up, and he scored the touchdown on it. So that was a nice special teams there. At the other end, also with Montreal, but on the offense, Max had a interesting touchdown, which I called the slide and score, because he went down about the 5-yard line and just slid in far enough that he could reach the ball in before anyone touched him. And what else? Anything? There was a nice little bit where Pimpleton showed off his skill by running about 130 yards to get a 10-yard gain, where he took it one side and reversed it back the other side and made a bunch of people miss. Other than that, Suter was doing the color on this, and he kept harping about how come Alexander's still in there from the start of the fourth quarter. Why is he still in there? We talked about this last week. He's a first-year starter. You need to give him the reps. But I would agree that Ottawa could have put Tyree Adams in. I'm hoping that what they'll do is maybe give him, in these last 2 games, they'll maybe give him a start where he can prep the whole week and see what they have with him. Because he's been there 4 years now, and he's only got the 1 start, and he looked good. And then he got injured, and we've never seen him back. So, any other thoughts about that game?
Because I didn't watch the game. I watched the highlight package on CFL.ca. And I guess editing can make anything look good, because of the highlight package, it looked to me like Ottawa was in this game until close to the end of the half. And Crum looked like he was doing okay. Dequoy had a huge first quarter. Between the scoop and score, as you said, on the block punt, between the next play when he knocked down a sure touchdown for Ottawa, then he had a couple of solid stacks and stuff. He had a hell of a first quarter. But Crum looked like he was doing okay, and then in the second half it was pretty much done. Yeah, and I don't know what's happened to Lewis Ward, but he doesn't seem to be able to be the guy that he was a few years ago either. So because he's missing fairly regularly this year. I'm with you 100% on Tyree Adams. I've been big on him since that game where he started a few years ago, and I don't know why they haven't given him the opportunity again. It's what we said in the Argo game. Sure, you're trying to win, but you're out of the playoffs. So, and you know what you have in Dustin Crum. Dustin Crum has gotten you to the point where you're out of the playoffs. You don't need to see any more of Dustin Crum. This should be the time that you're evaluating your other guys. And it's surprising that they're not doing it. Very surprising.
Especially with the way Brown performed in the last game that's got him sat down for the rest of the season. It's not like you can say, well, we'll come back with him next year and do fine. You just don't know.
So the Ottawa defense was the only part of the Ottawa that played to that game. Let's see. Alouettes only scored 1 offensive touchdown. They had 5 field goals, and they had the Dequoy punt block for a touchdown. And Alexander actually, after the game, was really upset about how he played. And he said it was his worst game he's ever played as a professional.
Yes, well, he got taken out towards the half there, and he was taking a hit.
Okay, interesting.
He was not happy about that.
I didn't watch this whole game, but he said that he got pulled out after 3 plays. Like he got hit, and then he played 3 more plays, and then the concussion spotter pulled him out. So he was really, really upset. He's like, if you want to pull me out right away. Don't pull me out 3 plays later. So
yeah. Well, I won't argue with him there. He was in for a bit afterwards, and both Suter and I think it was Rob Smith that was on with him there, were both saying, why is he still in there? Why hasn't the injury spotter called him? Because he did not look good. And I think it was just they didn't get it on the first one, and then as he ran another play or two, he didn't look solid out there. He looked wobbly, and they said, oh, we've got to do this now. So I don't think he's got anything to complain about. And he got back in.
And then Maltos's trick. We need to talk about Maltos's trick play to start the half.
That was
Where he
one part, exciting
hit,
part.
and it hit off of an Ottawa special teams player, and then Alouettes recovered it.
Yep, bounced it off one of the up people on the blocking. That's a called play, and that was
I
executed
told you
nicely.
they were gonna do these. I was like, they're gonna run trick plays against Ottawa just for practice, and they did. Because that one's dicey. Because as we know, that ball could bounce anywhere, but it
Yeah,
paid off for them this time. I guess like Davis is 10-0 as a starter. That's a league record. And Dequoy, look out other teams if Dequoy. This is the best he's looked since he was injured.
Yeah, I agree.
So look out everyone else if he is back playing at that high of a level on a regular basis. My kid was
yeah. Well, you should be. Yes, lots of flexing after that. I don't want to say anything too negative about Hamilton, but I do think that they should probably be a little bit
they should
worried right
be
now.
very concerned
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Montreal. Very
exactly.
concerned.
Because Montreal is looking very good. If Edmonton somehow finds a way to squeak in the back door, I'd be a little bit worried about them because they bumble and stumble around, but they somehow seem to
Have
be
you
finding ways to win
seen
these games.
have you seen how Hamilton's played against Edmonton this year? Like they won, but they shouldn't have
Yeah.
twice.
And then the other team that you got to give serious consideration to is if Calgary manages to build on what they did this last week. If they come back these last 2 weeks and look like that team again, that's three scary teams that could be in the playoffs and make it difficult for, like you said earlier, some of the ones that, well, Hamilton hasn't looked as good as it should. Saskatchewan kind of reminds me almost of the Edmonton teams when they had their 5-year dynasty there, where a lot of that wasn't big, huge scoring explosion games. It was kind of the attitude, they say, well, you can't win a game if you're trading field goals for touchdowns. But these teams like this take the attitude, well, we can win a game if we're trading field goals for punts. They weren't huge, high scoring games. They just didn't let the other team score, and they got down to the 30 consistently and kicked a field goal and it worked. But yeah, they certainly have not looked as good as they could. BC's looking good and solid moving ahead, and Winnipeg I cannot see Winnipeg managing to put together 4 or 5 good enough games to get into the playoffs with any kind of a seeding and then actually get to the Grey Cup. They haven't played more than 2 or 3 consistent good games all year. My thoughts. Sorry, too much pontificating. Are we done? Nothing else to talk about here with that one, I don't think. Oh, I never did say the score. It was Montreal 30 and Ottawa 10. So let's jump ahead to this week coming up and our predictions. So the first one, Friday night, starts with Saskatchewan at Winnipeg. Now, I can tell you that Jake Maher's been taking the first team reps in Saskatchewan. Their injury list is 2 or 3 pages long. And I don't think we'll see any starters that are at all nicked up. So I think the defense, I don't think we'll see Sales in there. We won't see Lacumbo or Ford come back. We won't see Campbell come back for at least one more game. And I'm pretty sure we don't see Harris or probably even don't see AJ. And then the next game, I would assume that their final in BC, they'll probably play them a quarter or a half. I personally, they won't do this. But if it was me, what I would do is if BC was still in fighting for the game, I'd go out and follow the strategy of only giving my starters the half, but I'd give them the second half. Because if you can fall behind a little bit with your backups and then come back and win the game, that sends a pretty powerful message. And if you don't win, well, you had 2 touchdowns on our backups. Anyway, so there's that. And then on the Winnipeg side, the only one that I saw was Dembski, who did not participate after leaving the game there. So, given those facts, who's winning?
Winnipeg.
I think I'll have to go along with you there. I mean, I don't know that it's lock if Maher has a good game, but I just think there'll be too much lack of talent on the Saskatchewan side as they rest people. So then we go on to Edmonton at BC, which is also the Friday night. There were other people on the injury reports, but basically Anderson and Kongbo were both limited for the Elks. and Broxton and Peters were limited for BC. Your thoughts?
Yeah, from what I read or heard, they're getting Broxton and Allen back on the offensive line. So that'll help their offensive line even more. I'm taking BC. I just think they're the better team, and they've been playing better recently. So I'm taking BC, and it's in BC, so that they've got that advantage as well. That it's indoor, it's dry, it suits Nathan Rourke. So I think I'll take BC.
I think that BC is the better team, but I am going to pick the Elks. I think they're going to be scrappy.
I really don't think that there's any way to justify taking Edmonton other than a gut feeling, and I don't know. My pickup has been absolute crap this year. Anyway, I think I'm pretty close to down at 50%. So I'm going with Edmonton again. It worked last week. What the heck? All right. And then we've got Montreal at Ottawa, and there were no injury reports on this game at all.
Because it doesn't matter. Montreal.
Yeah. Montreal again? Yeah, well, we're supposed to have conflict for good radio, but I can't. It's Montreal again. And then we get the final one.
Oh, no, I'm going to take the Red Black.
Oh, you're taking the Red Blacks. Okay.
I will, because I think there's like a little adrenaline before death. I think Montreal's going to be lazy about it.
Montreal's still playing for first place.
Yeah.
So they're playing for the home field advantage still. And there's just such a talent level difference that I think that, even if they are a little sloppy, a little lazy, they should still win this game.
They should, but
yeah, strange things happen.
Who knows? It's hard to win a home and home.
Yeah. And it is, and they're going back into Ottawa, and football's bounce weird ways. Yeah.
And I just think that some Red Blacks are playing for some job security, and they're just playing mean. So either the Red Blacks will play mean and they'll show up, or they will just fold up and go home, and it's going to be one or the other. So I'll just
why not?
Gamble a little. Why not?
All righty. So we do have some conflict there then. Good. That takes us to the last game of the week, which has Toronto going into Calgary. Now, Toronto shows a bunch of people on the did not participate list. The Toronto Arbuckle, of course, did not participate, but also Chatfield on the D line, and then the O line, Doxteter, is it pronounced? Giffen and Vandell all did not participate. And also on the defense, Lanier and McManus did not participate. So I don't think we'll see probably any of them in the games. And then for Calgary, Webb was still out, did not participate. Philpott and Coker did not participate. Well, that's what we know going in.
Yeah. So the one that I heard that Dickinson mentioned seemed to be pretty sure wasn't going to be there was Croker. So on the tackle. So they'll be shuffling that around a bit. I didn't hear anything in that interview about either Philpott. So I think they'll probably be okay. Yeah, and Calgary should win this game. I mean, again, they have something to play for. Toronto doesn't. And Toronto is just, they will be playing Tucker Horn, and they've already said that they will be playing. And this is their last game, so they only have this opportunity. So it's going to be Horn and Duggan getting a bunch of opportunity. Dogie may start, but I think the other two are going to play according to the team. So
he's playing.
Yeah, as far as I know. Oh, I don't know how much he's going to play, but I assume he's going to play. They had said they planned on playing all three quarterbacks is all that I heard. So I assume he's going to start and play, and how much, but they're playing all three is what they said. So it's really an exhibition style. He might play the first quarter, but if they put him back in last week, I don't see they're going to have any issue putting him in this week.
Yeah.
You're right. Silly me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Calgary.
Calgary, okay.
I would be a little bit more interested in Toronto if Tucker Horn was playing, but if Dougie's playing, don't forget it. NVA is amped, and he's gonna be mad about his play of late, and they have a lot to play for.
Yes.
They have a lot to play for.
Well, I don't think I've picked Calgary correct yet, maybe more than twice this season. it seems like whatever I pick, it goes the other way. So maybe I'll help Calgary out on their comeback run here and go with Toronto.
All right.
Give them the reverse whammy.
Gotta spend big to win big, right?
Yeah. Hey, sure. Like I said, what have I got to lose at this point? Okay,
As
you
I've
got all
always said.
that you needed there for that, MJ? And
Yeah.
you got them all marked down good. Okay.
Yeah, I got it all marked down.
All right. That kind of takes us back to the end of another week here. So any last closing remarks, last thoughts, and where can people find you on the social medias?
No, I'm looking forward to hopefully a better weekend now because there's still so much up in the air. There's still at least 3 or 4 teams that have positional moves to make and possible crossovers, et cetera, et cetera. So these games still do matter even with only 2 weeks left. So I'm looking for a good weekend of it, and hopefully I'll be able to watch more of it this weekend now that the turkey's out of the way, and we'll be able to go from there. So otherwise, if nothing else happens between now and then, you'll hear from me next week. Otherwise, you can see me occasionally at GT Barnum on Blue Sky.
The Ticats aren't playing, so I am just going to enjoy the weekend of football. You can find me at Sports and Plants on Blue Sky, and I run our Instagram account. You can find that at CFL Outsiders.
Yes, and thank you for the good work you've been doing on that there. Yeah, as far as I go, like I say, I've got to put together a fantasy team for a championship game, so that's going to be fun. Join me on Friday morning for Old Man Plays CFL Fantasy Football, and you'll see what we do there and how that goes. And then other than that, yeah, the Riders have first in the West, so I can relax these last couple of weeks and just enjoy the football. So I hope everybody does get a good weekend of football, even though there's teams that are out of it and teams like, well, at this point, one team, Saskatchewan, that'll be sitting players. But hopefully we get a good weekend. Hopefully, if you're still in any of the fantasy or pick'em leagues, you're doing well there. And please, for us, just, we beg at the end of every episode, I always do, any subscriptions, any subscribing you can do to YouTube, to the podcatchers, likes, comments, they are all helping us. Thank you very much for that. Other than that, for GT and MJ, this is Old Man saying until next week, get the hell off my lawn.